everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. Today we are making this chain link tunic. This is a lot of fun to make. It is super easy, a repeat pattern, and it'll keep you busy for a little while. It is so beautiful. So you can check out the photos on YARNutopia.com. You'll get the free written pattern for this project as well. It's very simple. We're working from the bottom up, making two panels, the front panel and the back panel, making the diamond mesh stitch, and if you can see here, it's like a net almost. It's so nice and just airy. It's really pretty. So we are doing that, and then we're going to be making, so we're making the two panels, the front panel and the back panel, and this front panel has a nice V-neck going on, so we have that, so it's really nice. I do give tips though, if you want it just to be a high neck, you can make two of the same of the back panel, and that you can have no V-neck. It's totally fine. But I show how to sew up the sides and sew up the shoulders, and you have yourself a vest. So big thank you to Red Heart Yarns for providing the yarn for this project. We're using a Red Heart Super Saver, and my color that I'm using today is light gray. This is a size 4 medium yarn. It is a worsted weight yarn, so you can use anything that is like a worsted weight or even a double knitting style of yarn. So that is the yarn we're using. I did use about 1.5 skeins of these, so I'm thinking about 500 yards of yarn, maybe a little less than 500 yards of yarn for this project. So if you're going to use something other than these, if you need to get, you'll need to get 2 balls of this if you're using this exactly, otherwise 500 yards of whatever other yarn you're going to use. Also, we're going to be using a G size hook, which is 4 millimeters. This is a G6 hook, which is 4.25 millimeters, and this super fancy hook is hand carved ergonomic, a wooden handled hook. I love these hooks so much. These are so nice. That's from the Etsy shop Would Be Fancy, and they're nice, just ergonomic, perfect for the crocheter who works a lot of crochet hours, especially you know, if you have like a carpal tunnel or arthritis. This is really nice to work with for long periods of time, and the holidays are coming up, and any crocheter will definitely ask for this on their Christmas list, and you should definitely get one for yourself. So there's that, or tell your husbands or your wives or your kids, say, Mom or Dad wants this. This is so nice. Also, you're gonna need a scissors and a yarn needle and a measuring tape. I have a measuring tape here for this piece, because you'll have to measure your own body, because I do give a lot of tips actually on how to make this in different sizes if you are bigger or smaller than me. So I made this for my size. I'm like a small medium size, but I do share all the measurements and everything throughout this video, and you can see that also in the notes section of this blog. I will have all the measurements for this piece in that notes section, and then tips on how to make this bigger or smaller. Just increase your width or your length, and you can make this as big as you want. It is a repeat. So those are all the supplies you need, and frequently asked questions are basically just sizing, but it's very easy to change up the size. You can add sleeves, and I give tips on how to do that at the end of this video, so make sure you watch the whole thing. Big thank you to Red Heart Yarns for providing this yarn today, and big thank you to my dad, Fuad, Azmat, for taking the time to videotape this with us. Make sure you subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Check out those links in the description there to the Facebook, Instagram, the website for the free pattern, and all that good stuff. And I will see you all over social media. Ooh, and follow me on Snapchat. I am YARNutopia on Snapchat, so make sure you're following me and getting all the updates on what we do here at YARNutopia headquarters, where I crochet all day. Alright, let's get started and make this awesome tunic. Alright, let's start out with a slip knot. So put your short end over your long end, then fold that down, and then pull that long end through and pull tight, and there's your slip knot. You can insert your hook, and we can start. Now I am going to chain 75. You can chain any multiple of 4 and then add 3 more chains at the end of your work here. Now this is in a multiple of 4 plus 3. I'm going to chain 75 because 72 is in a multiple of 4, and then add 3 more chains is 75. Now you're going to need to measure your chest measurement, and that is the length you'll need to make this. So chaining, yarn over and pull through, just like that. Now, like I said, your chest measurement, you'll need to chain half of your chest measurement, so not the full chest measurement. So mine is 36 inches around my chest, so half of 36 is 18 inches. So I am going to chain a length that is this long. So this chain is going to come all the way across here, but it still has to keep in the multiples of 4, and then add 3 more chains at the end. So as you can see, what I'm doing here is just yarn over and pull through, just like that. That's 1. Yarn over, pull through, just like that. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. Yarn over, pull through, that's 7. This is a chain, so we're just going to chain the amount we need. I'm going to chain 75, and that should get me to my 18-inch mark. And like I said, that's half of my chest measurement. So that's what I am going to do. And once I chain my 75, I will meet you up and we'll go on to row 1. Alright, so I just chained my 75, so it's just one long chain. And if you want to hold this up to yourself, make sure it's just half, it covers your half of your front here from one underarm to the other underarm or something. You can measure yourself with the chain, and that's how long it should be. So we're going to work from the bottom up of this thing. So we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So the loop on the hook doesn't count, so count 1 and 2. This is the second chain right here, and I like to turn my chain toward me like this, and you can see here that there are little ridges on the back of my chain. You can see there's a ridge, there's a ridge, there's a ridge. I like to work in these back ridges of my work here. So in the second chain from the hook, we are going to single crochet. So this one right here, go in that back ridge, then yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now we are going to chain 5. So yarn over and pull through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we are going to skip 3 chains. 1, 2, and 3. And in this next chain right here, we are going to single crochet. So go into that chain, then yarn over and pull that through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And we just made a chain 5 space. Awesome. So we're going to get, if you chained 75 just like me, you're going to get 18 of these little chain 5 spaces at the end of this row. Okay? So what we're going to do is just repeat. So chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then skip 3 chains, 1, 2, and 3, and go into the next chain right here and single crochet. So yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. That's a single crochet. Okay, so there's my second chain 5 space right there. So now chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip 3 chains and single crochet in the next. And just do that all the way across. And like I said, I'll have my 18 chain 5 spaces at the end of this row, and I will meet you up and we'll go on to row 2. Alright, just finishing row 1. I just chained my last 5 here, and then we're going to skip 3 chains and single crochet in the very last chain right here. So go in, right there, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now if you ended up with an extra chain, just skip the amount you need to. If you ended up with like 5 chains at the end, just skip the 4 chains and just single crochet in the end. Or if you ended up with just 3 chains, just skip two chains and then single crochet in the end. So if nobody's going to really notice, this is going to be the bottom of our shirt, so you should be fine. So this is what row 1 looks like. So now going on to row 2, let's continue this mesh design. Let's chain up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Turn the work around, so we're looking at it this way, and we are going to single crochet into this chain space. Now you can decide if you want to single crochet right into the chain space like this, you can single crochet. What I'm actually going to do for my design is actually a different technique. We're going to go into the middle chain of our chain 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This middle chain right here, and you can see this back ridge That's the one I like to work in right there. I'm going to go into there and I'm actually going to slip stitch. Instead of single crocheting, I'm going to use slip stitches in this pattern. So yarn over, pull through, and through the loop on your hook. Okay, just like that. And then we're just going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hop to the next chain 5 space right here. Go into the middle, the third one right here, and slip stitch. So yarn over, pull through, and through. Now if you don't want to do it this way, like I said, you could just single crochet into the chain 5 space and that would be totally fine as well. You'll get the same design. So chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip to the next chain 5 space and you can either slip stitch into the middle chain or just single crochet into the chain 5 space. Slip stitch, there we go. And we're just going to do that all the way across. So chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and slip stitch into the middle chain of the next chain 5 space. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that all the way across, and then I will meet you up and we'll go on to row 3. Alright, finishing row 2, I have this one chain 5 space left. What I'm going to do is slip stitch into that middle chain, just like I've been doing, but then we're actually also going to chain 5 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then single crochet or slip stitch, it's up to you, into this stitch back here. So it looks like a single crochet stitch right here. It is a single crochet stitch, sorry. We're gonna you can single crochet in there or slip stitch. So yarn over, pull through. I'm going to slip stitch because I've been slip stitching, just like that. Now we're going to go on to row 3. Now row 3 is our repeat pattern. We're going to chain up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Turn the work around. Okay, so now we're looking at it like this. And we are going to kind of repeat row 2, just slip stitch into the middle chain of this chain 5 space or single crochet into the chain 5 space. So slip stitch just like that, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, hop to the next and slip stitch in there, in that middle chain of your chain 5 there, or like I said, you can single crochet in the chain 5 space. But I'm just going to do this all the way across, just chain 5 and then slip stitch in the middle chain of the next chain 5 space. So it's kind of getting redundant now. So this is a repeat and we are going to do that all the way across and then I'll meet you up for row 4. Alright, finishing row 3, I have this one chain 5 space left. All we have to do is just slip stitch in, or if you're doing single crochets, single crochet in there. I'm doing the slip stitching, so I'm just going to slip stitch in the middle chain in there. Okay, now we don't have to chain another 5 and work in a single crochet because there's nothing else left on this side. That was only what we had to do for row 2. So now row 3 is our repeat row. All you have to do now is just rewind this to see how I started and ended row 3 and just work a repeat of row 3 for however long you need to make your piece. So I'm going to make this 60 rows total. Okay, so row 4 through 60, I'm just going to repeat row 3. And once I finish row 60, it's going to be a little while, so once I finish row 60, I'll hop back on here, meet you back up, and then I'll show you what to do next. Alright, just finished row 60, so this is what it should look like. Now, when you're ready to fasten off, just chain 1. I'm going to kind of pull this through. I'm actually going to cut my yarn kind of long for sewing. Okay, and then just continue to pull it through there. Just like that. So this is what your piece should look like. Mine's just like a big mesh piece, and it is really stretchy with the Red Heart Super Saver yarn. If you're using a cotton yarn, it also might be a little stretchy, so you can see the diamond mesh design. It looks really nice, and that's kind of what the design I'm going for is, the chain link design. So I measured this piece out with it being the 18 inches across. It's going to stay that 18 inches across for the whole thing if you just repeat row 3. So you can see there it stretches to about 18 inches, okay? And that's going to be for the whole thing. Now if you wanted to, you can block this piece in the size you need it to be. You know, you can just pin it down to a towel, stretch it out, you know, and then pin it down to the towel, and then spray it with water and let it dry for 24 hours. It should keep its shape. But then I measured it this way across here, and it turned out to be about 29 inches. But when I stretch it this way, it kind of shortens up, so it's about 27 inches, actually. So, I mean, you can stretch it out, make it however you need to. You can make it as long as you want. You can do more than 60 rows, you know. You can do as many rows as you want. If you are taller than me, obviously, you would want to do more rows. And if you're shorter than me, you'd want to do less rows. So that is the back panel, okay? So now, once you've finished the back panel, I'm going to just fold it up, and we're going to set that aside and do the front panel. So the front panel is a little different, but starting it is the same. So what I'm just going to show you my finished piece, or my half finished piece, and we'll go on to making the front panel. So you can see I have already done this piece here. What you have to do is rewind this whole thing to the beginning of this pattern and repeat rows 1, 2, and 3, and then repeat row 3 until row 35, okay? Or until it's about 2/3 done, okay? Till you get about the right to the middle of your chest, okay? Because we are going to do a V-neck on this. If you don't want a V-neck, you can just make this panel the same 60 rows and then attach the front and the back, and you'll have kind of a higher neck. But I want to make a V-neck kind of thing right here, where it kind of goes off like this. So that's why I ended here, because this is where the start of, or the middle of my chest is going to be right here, and I want to kind of V my neck right here. So we have to start out, we have to make this panel here and then this panel here. So what I did, again, was do rows 1, 2, 3, and then repeat row 3 until row 35. And then now rows 36 to 60, we are going to start making the V-stitch, or the V-neck. Sorry, not V-stitch, the V-neck. So what we're going to do, so get this to this point and then come back and I will show you how to do this V-neck part. So I'm finishing row 35 now. Now what you want to do, if you made your piece a little different than me, you can see across here, I have on my piece 18 of these chain 5 spaces, okay? You might have more, you might have less. What you'll need to do is count how many you have and then divide it by 2, okay? So it's here. Half of 18 is 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is my middle point right between these two. Okay, so there should be 9 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yep. So this is my middle point right here. So if you want to mark it with some type of, I don't know, piece of yarn, or just count your stitches, you can. So you want to mark your center, okay? Now, to do that, what we're going to do next, let me get a piece of yarn so I can actually mark this thing. I don't have a piece of yarn. I'll use a piece of yarn from this thing. Okay, piece of yarn, here, middle, right here. So I just marked it. There. Okay, so now what we're going to do is chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is the V-neck part. We're going to continue the mesh stitch. So I'm turning my work around, continuing the mesh design. So we're just going to slip stitch into this one here. Okay, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch into the next. And I'm saying slip stitches, but like I said earlier, if you're doing single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, slip stitch into the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, into the next. So I'm going to do this for the first 9 ones here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and to the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the next. Okay, I have 3 more here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this next. Okay, now I'm at the middle of the chest here. This is the center point. What I'm actually going to do now is chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm going to slip stitch into this middle where this is marked right here. Okay, because when we do the other side, we're also going to work in there as well. So I'm going to go into this stitch right here, yarn over, pull through, and through. Now we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to turn the work around. So leave the rest of these all unworked. We'll do that later. I'm going to turn this around. Okay. And now we're going to work across here. So you should actually, I think, have 10 of these. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now I'm going to slip stitch into this first one here. So it's very similar. This one is kind of similar to row 2, how we just like made that last one there and slip stitched into that end there, and then went on to row 3. So now we're kind of just repeating row 3, but just working half of this side here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, hop to the next, and slip stitch. Okay. Then chain 5 and go to the next and slip stitch. Okay, so do that across to the side here, all the way across to here, and then once I finish this row, we'll go on to the next row of the V-neck. Alright, just finishing up this little row here, we're going to slip stitch to this beginning, or this chain, this middle chain right there. Yarn over, pull through, and through. Or you could have single crocheted in there, no big deal. Now we're going to chain up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Turn the work around. And now we're going to just repeat row 3, but we're just ending right here in this little chain space here. Okay, so we're just repeating row 3 though. So we're going to go into this first middle chain of this chain 5 space here and slip stitch in there. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hop to the next and slip stitch in the middle one there. But like I said, you could single crochet in them, you know, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hop to the next and slip stitch in the middle. Just like that. Okay, and do that all the way across, and then when I'm finishing this row, I'll meet you up and we'll go on to the next row. Alright, finishing this row, just got to chain 5 and then slip stitch into this chain space that we kind of created earlier. We're just going to slip stitch, oopsie, into the middle chain of that. Right here. There we go. In there, yarn over, pull through, and through. Alright, now we just have to repeat what we just did that last row there. Okay, so that was row 3 of the V-neck. You can see this is row 1 of the V-neck, row 2, and then row 3. So now we're going to chain 5 and then turn the work, slip stitch into this first space right here, into that middle chain. I'm going to go in and slip stitch, chain 5, and then slip stitch in the next. And you can make this part as long as you need, but I am just going to finish this until I have my, I think it's 15 rows total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep. I'm going to do 15 rows total for this V-neck part, and that should be enough to get up over my shoulders so I can sew this piece to the back panel, but you can make this however long you need it to be, and just make sure that you have the same amount of rows. Here, let's back up here and show you. We're gonna have the same amount of rows from bottom to all the way to the top when we are making these as the back piece, as the back panel. So I'm going to have 60 rows total from very, very bottom of the piece all the way up to the very, very top with this panel. So I'm going to continue on. Yes, exactly. Continue on. So I'm going to do that as long as I need it to be. But I want to make sure that the front and back panel match up. We don't want one longer than the other. Unless you like that design, then you can definitely do that. But I'm going to keep them both consistent and the same length. So I'm going to do this for the 15 rows that I need to do this side of the v-neck, and then I will meet you up when I'm about to fasten this part off, and we'll go on to making the other side of the v-neck. Alright, so I just finished this side of the v-neck. To fasten off, we're going to chain 1, cut your yarn long, and then pull it all the way through. We're going to use that strand for sewing later, okay? So this is what mine is looking like. Now, what happened was I think I counted earlier that I was going to do 15 rows, but I ended up having to do 25 rows because if you look at the whole length of this piece, you can see that from the beginning, you want to count your rows from the beginning. You should have 60 all the way from the bottom all the way to the top here. You want to have 60 rows just like your piece, your back panel piece, okay? So you want to make sure that this piece and this piece are equal in row length. Okay, so I don't know why I said that we were going to do up to 35 rows here and then 36 to 60 is not 15, it's 25. So I did 10 extra rows. I don't know why my calculation was off there. Weird. Anyway, going on to making this side now, what we're going to do is start where this piece attached right here, where that slip stitch in there. Remember where we did row 1 of this side and we attached it right in here? We're going to go right back in that same spot and attach our extra, or our new yarn here, and start working this other side, okay? And to do that, we are going to chain 5 now. So yarn over, pull through, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and then we're going to go into this very first chain space right here, and we're going to go and slip stitch into that middle chain right there. Yarn over, pull through, and pull through. Okay, now we're going to work our mesh design all the way across, so chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hop to the next one right here, and slip stitch in there. Okay, then chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hop to the next one, and slip stitch in there. And just do that all the way across, and when I finish this row, I'll meet you up and we'll go on to the next row together. Alright, finishing this row, we are going to chain our last 5 and only slip stitch into this last chain space here. I'm going to go into the middle chain right here. Yarn over, pull through, and through. And that's all you have to do to end this row. Now we're going to chain up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Turn the work around, and then slip stitch into that first chain, or that middle chain of the first chain 5 space. Right there. Yarn over, pull through, and just work your mesh design now. Just like we did the other side, as long as you need this to be, make sure it is equal to the other side, the other v-neck side. So I'm going to lay this out here. So I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way. Now we're going to end in this chain space right here. Okay, so we're going to work across from here to this chain space. Don't worry about this v-neck side now. This is our other side. We're not going to worry about that right now. And then we're going to make these rows as tall as this side. So if you did the 25 rows like me, do the 25 rows for this side. And then once we are finished doing that repeat all the way up, then I will meet you back up here. We'll fasten this part off and we'll be able to start attaching our pieces together. Alright, when you're finished with the other side of the V-neck, we're just going to fasten off just like I showed you with the other side. I'm just going to chain one. I'm actually just going to cut this one short though, because the back panel has a long strand for us to sew with. So I'm just going to pull that through and pull it tight. So now we have fastened that off, and just make sure that it's equal with the other side so that they are equal in the rows, the row amounts that you use. So I did 25 rows for each part here, and from the very bottom here it should be 60 rows to the very top. Okay, so once you have your front panel done and you already have your back panel finished, this is what they are going to look like. And what we're going to do now is sew together the top parts, the sleeve, or I guess this shoulder area, and then this shoulder area across here on this back panel. So what we're going to do is line this up, okay, corner and corner, okay, and you can count here, there should be, I think, 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Perfect. What we're actually going to do is do 9. So we're going to scoot this one over to here, okay, because this is where my strand is. This is what I'm going to use for sewing. So what we're going to do is grab our little yarn needle, okay, I yarned my needle with that long strand. We moved this over one, okay. We are going to sew these two on the front panel. We're sewing the back panel is right this piece, and the front panel is this piece. And we're going to sew 2 of these front panel chain 5 spaces to one of these ones, just the first 2. Okay, and we're going to whip stitch. So I'm going to go into this loop here and this loop here, this chain. Okay. And we're just going to come around. And so we're going to put 2 of these into one of these. So this one's going to stretch all the way across here like this. So what I'm going to do is just go through the same chain that I just was in, and we're going to go to the next one of the front panel right here. Okay, then we're going to do every 2. So every one on this back panel is going to do 2 on this front panel. I hope that makes sense. I'll help you out. Okay, so I'm just doing a whip stitch. Okay, so you can just line up your piece, do a whip stitch, just like this, and then we're going to turn this right side out. So this is the inside of our garment right now. Oops, I have to go back here. There we go. Okay, I'm still in this first chain space. I'm just stretching it across this, and this is the back of your piece, but we just want to make sure that we have an equal amount of stitches on each side to line up correctly, so that this part right here lines up to the edge over here. Okay, so from here on out, we are going to put 1 chain to 1 chain on this shoulder, and that should line up perfectly to the end. Okay, and if you're having trouble, you can always just, line up your stitches, kind of, if you need to, bunch it up just a little bit, put 2 stitches in 1 chain, and that should be fine too. Okay, just so that you get it sewn together, just like this. Okay, so I'm going to do this all the way across, and then I will meet you up to show you how to fasten off, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright, when you want to fasten off, we're just going to pull this through. You can see my finger in that loop. We're going to come back through that loop, just like that, and then pull tight, and that fastens that off. And you can do that once or twice to make sure it is secure. There you go. And then we could just sew in this end. Just sew it in underneath some of those stitches that we just made. Just back into your work. And then pull tight, stretch it out. And if you need to cut any extra, but I don't have any extra, so I don't need to cut anything. Now you can see that we sewed this together, but it kind of looks jank or messed up. Sorry. So if you turn it right side out though, it doesn't look that way at all. It actually looks really nice. And when it's on the shoulder, it will stretch out and actually look like a nice seam. So that's why we sew it together on the inside, so that it doesn't look like that on the outside. Okay, so now we're going to do the other side. So line these up on this side. Okay, again, it should be 10, but we're going to skip this middle back one here, and we're going to do 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, and these last two on this piece are going to go into this one. Okay, just like we did. Okay, but I actually have my yarn on this side this time, so I'm gonna sew it on together on this side first. Okay, so just sew it exactly how I showed you earlier, just except the opposite. So now we're doing one of these chain spaces to one of these chain spaces. Okay, so 1 to 1, 1 to 1, except when we get to the very last one here, and there should be 2 left on this one. These 2 are going to go together in this one. Okay, just so on the back of the neck you have one of these chain 5 spaces across the back here, just free, unworked. Okay, till the next, you can see your seam for the next side is right there. Okay, so just sew this together just like I showed you earlier, and once you have this sewn together, we can go in, ahead and sew up the sides. Alright, just finished this side now, so now I'm just going to fasten this part off just like I showed you earlier. I'm going to come back through these strands. Oopsie, there we go. And tie a knot. And again. So now the top shoulders are attached and it's inside out. So what we're going to do, I'll sew that in later. So now we have this top seamed and this top seamed, so that's what it looks like. So I mean, if you want to flip it the right side out, you can see that it looks very clean and straight across. That looks really nice. You can barely even tell. It looks really good. So that's on both sides here. Looks good, looks good. Okay, so now we have to do the side. So I'm going to put that back inside out. Okay, and we have to sew up each side. Okay, so now you want to make sure that your piece is completely lined up from the bottom corners, like so, all the way up to where your sleeve is going to start. Now you need to measure, if you look at me, my shoulder here, back here, from this point of my shoulder, hang on, back up just a little bit, from this part of my shoulder to this part of my arm. Okay, that's how we're measuring. Yeah, right in the armpit there. So we're going to measure from here down to here. And for me, that's almost 10 inches. So around the whole arm, it's about 20 inches on this shoulder. So that's what we want to do. We want to go down 10 inches because around the whole circle, it will be 20 inches. Now that's for my arm. That doesn't have to be specifically for your arm. You should measure yours and see how low you need to go, and then you can grab your handy dandy measure and go down about, I'm thinking stretched 10 inches, right about here. Okay, so that is where I want to start my sewing, all the way down this edge here. Okay, and this part here will be unworked because that is where our arm is going to come out of, okay? So we're going to do that for this side and that side, same exact way. So I'm just going to show you one side and then I'll let you go on your own. So we're going to line this up. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is mark this with that stitch marker up here. And I'm actually going to start from the bottom only because I want to make sure my stitches all line up on the sides. So we're going to start at the bottom here. Okay, I'm just yarning my needle with yarn from the ball of yarn, so just extra yarn, okay? And we're going to come down here to the bottom foundation chain right in here and in this one as well. Oops, right about there, okay? And we're just going to pull. Okay, that one's sewing. We're going to do the whip stitch again. So I'm going to move the ball of yarn that way. Okay, so we're just going to line up the chain 5 spaces on the sides. And we're just going to whip stitch this closed. Okay, so make sure that you're lined up. There we go. And just keep going through, whipping around and going through there and then come back around. So I'm always going into my work from the same side, from this side up, going up that way. Okay, and that's how you work a whip stitch. So that I'm going to do that all the way up until that marked area, and once I'm up there we can fasten this off and then go on to the other side. Alright, when you come to the top to hit your stitch marker here, we're just going to fasten this off. So let's go through a couple stitches, remove that stitch marker, pull this through, keep your finger in the loop, and then come back through the loop, just like I showed you earlier with those shoulders, attaching the shoulder part. Okay, just going to do that twice, and then sew in that end. And then for the bottom side, since this was connected to a ball of yarn, I ended up cutting the yarn at the bottom there, and I'll show you in a second. I'm just going to sew in this end here, cut any extra. Okay, so now this bottom part here, I ended up cutting it off of the ball of yarn, and we're just going to fasten this off the same way. So you can see here, we're just going to go through those bottom stitches and then keep the finger in the loop and do that another time and fasten that off. Okay, and then obviously sew in your ends. And I'm just going to do this real quick, so stay with me here. Then what we need to do is sew the other side. I ended up doing that off camera here, so I'll show you. What you need to do is just flip this over, boom, and then do the same thing. Start from the bottom here, work your way up. You could mark the stitches. How I marked this was I actually went to this side, and where this one was marked on this side, I ended up just following this like zigzaggy line all the way across, okay? And then it landed up right there. So that's how I did it on that marking there. So I marked that, and then I sewed up this side as well. Okay, so it's inside out right now, but once you have this side all sewn up and both sides and all the shoulders and everything, oh, I do have one more, I guess a couple of little strands I want to sew in. This one is a little tricky since it's right in the center of the V-neck. I'll show you a little trick that I like to do. I just yarn my needle there, and what we're going to do is just go around and around. And this is on the inside, so nobody is even going to see this. Okay, and then you can cut this extra, just like that. So now I'll just have that one strand, but I'll sew that in off camera here. I just want to show you what it looks like in the end. It's a nice V-neck tunic, it looks really good. So a few things that you can do, we're finished now, by the way, so congratulations, you've done a crochet project that is super fabulous that you can wear, and it was a lot of fun to make. It's very meshy and like a net. It's really, really pretty and perfect for like a summer or even for the, you know, fall nights. It's a little bit of a weight to it, so it'll keep you warm, but there's the V-neck. Now, if you see the pictures online, I think I'll have a photo on there that will have a ribbon kind of doing a little lace up on the neck here, so you can kind of add a little bit of embellishment. You can add a brooch to this, you know, ribbon even around the sleeves if you want, and if you want to, you can crochet like sleeves or even a shorter sleeve, just single crochet in the round around your sleeve here around the armhole. You can crochet single crochets all the way around, however thick you want your, if you want a short sleeve kind of vest style, and you can do that even around the neck as well, or even around this bottom here to make it even longer if you want to do that. So there's different things you can do with this, but I have a little idea in mind what I'm going to do with this project myself, so stay tuned on YARNutopia.com. Big thank you to Red Heart Yarns for providing the yarn for this project today. Big thank you to my dad for videotaping and editing our footage, and big thank you to you for watching. Make sure to check out YARNutopia.com, check out the Facebook and Instagram, and if you make this, make sure to hashtag YARNutopia or share it on the Facebook wall, and I like to pick a few of my faves to share with everyone in the community. So thanks again for watching, everyone. Have a great day. Happy hooking!